Co-sensing Interview time. So, Stephane, regarding the system in place, your system in your current organization, what do you wish to happen, ideally?
So, just to clarify, which system are we talking about here?
We are talking about that could be the system you are in. Which level do you want to consider?
Well, there's plenty of ways I could consider it. I could look at it as, like, for instance, the no ship. I could look at it as the EU in general, the EU project that we're working with, and our connection with EU as citizens, as consultants. That's probably something that's more relevant to what we're doing now. So yeah,
It will be more relevant to you. So at the level of the citizens, the broader view.
yeah, like really, rather than just looking at no sheep, which is our thing, to look at the EU context
Okay.
in general as a citizen and also as somebody who works with them.
And why relevant? Why it is so relevant to you?
Because it's connected to the future of our planet. This is where the decisions are made that can impact the future of our planet.
And so, considering this, what is good for the planet, what will that look like? What do you want to, what do you want to achieve? It's not in place right now.
I would like to see the EU institutions really taking care of the future rather than trying to address short-term priorities.
Okay. And if the EU does so, in your opinion, what could be the impact of that?
I think it would like kind of allow humanity like to round a corner or something like this. Yeah.
And what is it? What is there behind the corner?
Well, definitely a different way of organizing things, different perspective on economy, for instance, on environment, on social organizations. Yeah.
Okay, but how will you know that you are, just behind the corner, and and the things will have been reorganized in such a way you will get a positive impact? How will you know that?
How will I know? It's because many forms of connections and relationships, I would say, between people and public organizations will change, and also obviously as a result between people also.
Could you tell me more?
Yeah, I think they're still in the perspective of that corner being taken. You could see symmetry in the relationship between people and administrative organizations and public organizations. You would see also more proximity and more transparency. So yeah, symmetry, proximity, transparency. Yeah.
And what is the link with with the planet here, as you mentioned just before?
If I take the example to answer your question, and maybe I need to take an example, but some people say, okay, it seems that we need to decrease our carbon consumption by 3% every year, you know. And actually, aside from COVID, it never stops going up. And people say we're condemned to do this because if we don't, you know, everything stops. So in other words, we say, okay, we need to keep on with the economy and then forget about the planet, which is kind of nonsensical. So if I look at this from another perspective, I say, okay, so we need to reorganize the economy so that we don't have to be nonsensical and crazy and cynical at the same time. So maybe to do that, maybe we understand that people's individual and collective ideals may be happening in a different place than just having to go shopping and buying stuff and consuming and getting work.
And then you will know that you will have achieved something.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Fair enough.
so I see that. So we are in the big picture, and you mentioned no ship. So what two things might make the change you are mentioning possible, just behind the corner?
You mean from the no ship perspective?
As you want, but you mentioned from no ship to the planet, you know. So how to what extent does no ship have an impact on could have an impact on this?
Well, I think it's very interesting for me. I mean, it's a great question because you see this on all levels. Everybody wants the same thing, and then we end up with something else, and where everybody's looking at each other saying, "What's going on here?" You know, we are doing exactly. We are doing exactly what we think is good individually, but collectively we end up with the opposite results, basically. You could look at this from all those layers, okay? So that's also something that probably needs to be addressed. That kind of black box effect.
Okay, so how to handle that?
How to handle that?
Yeah.
I guess that's we need to open it up. That's an expression I used last night. You know, when there was some friction. You know,
to open what?
That look at it. Say, okay, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting process because we're right in the midst of it at No Sheep. You know, like what's going on? You know, right? We want something, and actually, we're not getting it, even though we're doing everything we can in order to get it. So that's really a good systemic question, because then we see that the problem is not about redesigning the system or anything like this. It's somewhere else. It's about being able to connect with each other, which I think as we speak now, I see it as creating those connections among ourselves, which are functional and are taking us in the right direction.
Who are among ourselves? Who are ourselves, in your opinion?
Well, it's everybody. If you take it, for instance, at the level of No Ship, it's all of us.
Uh-huh.
And yep. I mean, you could think about the core team. You could think about the extended team. You could think, and like, okay, how do we see this? And as I'm talking to you, I can really see that. Yeah.
And where are you in that, in the picture?
It's interesting. It's great because, of course, I am in the center, but actually I'm everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I mean, from my own perspective, I'm in the center because things are around me. Mm-hmm. But if I look at the system, it's like galaxies, the universe is like you're in the middle of the universe, but actually you're somewhere else.
So you're connected with everything else,
Yeah.
and you are nowhere and everywhere. So, and back to your reality, do you see any blockage somewhere in order to, to get connected as you wish?
Um, yeah, there are things that block. There are definitely things that block, probably inside of me. I don't know. It's difficult to answer that, uh, because I could, if I, if I really want to be, uh, I would say, as close to a reality as possible, I need to be careful about not looking for symptoms and say, oh yeah, this is because of that, or this happened, so we need to fix that. So again, maybe it's my inability as a person, and that's, I'm not alone in this, because it's I think it's a societal challenge, is to see how responsible we are for whatever is happening around us. And taking our share of responsibility has nothing to do with feeling guilty or anything like this. Actually, it's just like seeing what is there. And again, it's about opening up, looking into, it's like opening up. So as we speak, I'm starting to understand a lot more.
Not that great, but for opening up, what should change, concretely?
Well, that's simple. We need just to stop, take the time, and look.
And
Take the time and
what?
look. Really, nothing to do with. It's not like a workshop, or anything like this. Where we stop, we take a little time, and we look a little bit. No, it's not that. Really stop and look and take.
And are there favorable conditions in place for that to happen?
Actually, the conditions are just the opposite of that. For not stopping, for
Uh,
not taking any time, and for not looking because we're busy. So,
uh, okay, so and apart from you, what might motivate others? All other players you mentioned in the big system. Uh, to to push the change uh, you are mentioning.
okay. All right. There's this saying. People change out of inspiration or desperation. Um, I am okay, and change happens either from the top. That's kind of the traditional way we see it, or it comes from um, the volume. I don't want to use the word the masses, but actually it's kind of it's like there is a shift in consciousness that happens. Okay, so
Mhm.
usually if you take it from there, it's out of desperation, but it can also be out of inspiration. But then it goes back to the previous thing, which was like people don't have time.
Mhm.
They don't have time to be either inspired or despaired in desperation.
When you are talking about desperation, do you mean the famous burning platform? We have to quit rapidly because it's
We
not
what?
burning platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I can stay here because uh, I can bear that. So I need to go somewhere behind the corner, as you said.
Yeah. Well, again, when you talk to people about there's an emergency, they think about the emergency about like, okay, where's the fire exit? But
Mm.
actually, maybe what they need to do is learn how to fly from
Okay.
the window, okay? Because go opening the door is not going to do anything. So again, it's like short-term fixes versus long-term
Mm.
solutions or evolution. So the people that are going to answer your question, people that are going to do that, I don't see much possibility for us to be inspiring to uh, high level executives anywhere because we're not part of their world, and so therefore we're not on their radar. Okay, I don't see the legitimacy in their eyes of what we do. Now, on the other hand, you know, there are lots of people that can be inspired and have been inspired by what we do. So I would look at it more as a tool, more, you know, like talking to a lot of people rather than trying to get attention from some guys at a high level. But maybe it's just my mood of the day. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But Stefan, even so, what might motivate these senior leaders, to champion this? What might motivate them, in your opinion? Any trigger button?
Um, I don't know. It needs to click, I guess. You know, again, you need to have this window of time where their attention is there, and during that thing, which cannot be resolved to methods of the 20th century. It's not about an elevator pitch. It's about creating, we're not selling anything. It's about creating some kind of epiphany where people realize that this is important. We have to do it. And their agenda is so much filled up with stuff which is important and they have to do it, then I don't see much opportunity because again, you know, the system creates the behaviors, which creates. So we have this spiraling thing, you know, where we're getting further away from the solution at a faster rate.
This vicious circle. And regarding all the players you mentioned, everybody, including these senior managers, what might put them off regarding the change we are talking about since the beginning?
Well, those guys, if they're there, it's because they tend to fit. And I'm talking, they tend to because there's a lot of diversity in all kinds of jobs. Okay, but they tend to fit a certain number of expectations. One of them being them protecting and defending the system in place because otherwise they wouldn't be there.
Mhm.
Okay? So there is trust in, and there is faith in a system which actually is not working anymore. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to say what we're doing doesn't work anymore. And let's do something else. In other words, it's as if you were, I don't know, you know, you're the skipper of a boat and you say, you know, this boat is not going to allow us to sustain the oncoming hurricane. Let's jump ship and let's build another ship, you know?
Now that speaks to me.
Yeah. And then everybody says, you're crazy, you know? That's the only boat we have.
You mentioned these leaders try to fit expectations, but where do these expectations come from?
Oh, they come from time. They come from history, from culture, from education. That's the way we've been doing this. We've been creating those big organizations that are pyramidal, you know, and with all the goodwill in the mind of the people, there is still this necessity to uphold this pyramid. It's very again, it's counterproductive in the time.
Okay, and what about other players, apart from these guys? What might put them off regarding this wish of change?
Other players than the execs I was mentioning earlier.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, if you look elsewhere, you know, there's some people who say, you know, there's nothing I can do about this.
Mhm.
There's some people who say, I mean, there's a lot of there's nothing I can do about this. You know, it's not my job. I'm too small. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm too whatever. Okay, so there's lots of excuses, and then there are some people who say, you know, this is not even true. And then there are some people who actually, actually, this point is about like information or disinformation. And I'm not saying this is something that which is voluntary, but there's so much contradictory information out there that if people start to try to rely on information, they actually have no way of knowing anything for sure. So they feel totally powerless about what they should do because in the first place they don't have the right information. So it's kind of
Mhm.
crazy.
So, could you take stock about all we you have said? You know, there are, you know, some motivation towards the change you mentioned, but also some reluctancy. So today, where is the balance?
I think we are at the very very beginning of something, you know, kind of either it works or it doesn't, uh, and I think it's going to work in one way or another, but yeah, we cannot. I mean, I've been saying this for a while now, you know, if I was not doing what I'm doing now, I don't think I could look at myself in the mirror.
Mhm.
Okay, once we know, there's no going back. uh, and okay, so there may be frustration regarding some people who don't know or anything like this, but I think it's an opportunity, for instance, for me and for other people to learn how to deal with this system.
Mhm.
And this system, it goes back to, again, you know, our little team, you know, how do we work together? And it's bigger, you know, this kind of big animal in front of us. How do we deal with it, you know, knowing that we're also part of it?
Mhm.
It's kind of mind-boggling, but we have to be able to address that because otherwise, we will just be doing stuff, you know. And actually, this activity we're doing right now is really about observing, observing, observing. And of course, when you observe, you know, there are some feelings that are associated to that. You know, when I observe an executive, of course, you know, I have this image of a typical executive, the same way that executive looks at me and has this image of a typical consultant, which I'm not. But who knows, you know? And I've been in a meeting not long ago with this guy, you know, where he kept explaining to me, you know, what what I do every day. And he thought he had to explain to me because he didn't understand that I spoke the same language as he did. So it can be sometimes very
Mhm.
difficult, frustrating to make sure that we're on the level.
Okay, so if I understand you well, so we have also to change the way people look at each other, for instance,
Yeah,
senior leader and consultant, and you. So how to change the way they look at you?
yeah, and that requires that I change the way I look at myself. Uh, because maybe I'm just not this kind of nice guy who does, you know, some missions for peanuts and still keep smiling.
Mhm.
Maybe I have something else to offer to the world.
Mhm.
If I stay in the corner in one corner and just like scream to myself, it's not gonna help. And if I start pining around, you know, saying I'm not happy and all that stuff, it's not going to help. I have to be constructive. I have to be a force of proposition of opening up to something. So this is a message I need to hear for myself every day.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. I will keep the metaphor of the corner. You know, you have to get out of your from your corner, and you already know what you want to happen behind the corner.
Well, Marc, you're being interviewed. How did it feel to do that interview?
Mm. Oh, um, I know. I feel well, I feel good because I feel good. But from the beginning, it was, because of the lack of context. It was not agreed really and clarified. I was just, floating a little bit, saying, "Whoa, what could I get from that?" But I trusted the process. The very fact you ask open question, and it was good to Stephane. But I was thinking, is it good to us? No shit, at the end. It was a real interview. So what should I get for that? But I have to dance, I have to tango with the guy, with Stephane. He's responsible of what he answers. So I have not to judge, but to explore more sometimes, to explore more what he's saying. I'm sure. But at the end, I was glad to get the nugget. But a lot of work could be done from this nugget. About this nugget. So
could you share what that nugget is for the people watching this recording?
At the end, it was talking about the black box, etc. At the end, if you want that something change, the first thing to change is oneself. It's me. Question myself and put myself into question before wishing to change others, or that others to change. So and all will start by this awareness raising about where am I, what I'm doing right now, my impact about others, how I look at others, even at senior leaders and other players, and what could I change?
I think there was a question about what sort of feedback am I getting from others, and what meaning do I assign to it as well. That was an important, a really important note, and it came quite late in the interview. Marc, you talked about the red thread in terms of the structure of the interview itself, and that you didn't go in a straight line. You danced back and forth and developed things as they went. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
I thought I gave some words about that, So the red threads, these are for me milestones. I respect it, but between two questions, you have to explore to get more. But then, if you want to, continue the interview, you have to go back next milestone in ahead, But continuing listening to the others, to bounce back to answers, to show you are listening, but then. When you are ready, I remember he was talking about players, so that was the moment to me, the right moment to ask the questions. But what might motivate them? Them, the senior leaders you are talking about, them, the players you are talking about. Just that should be natural, fluid.
Yeah, and you're letting the content of what he's saying inform the next step in the interview.
Exactly.
And also we mentioned that using sensing words was a great way to keep it focused on that person. And how does it look? How does it smell? How does it feel? And where is it? Where is it located? If you have a frustration, where is that located? Is it inside the system? Is it inside your day? Is it inside yourself? Is it in your thoughts? Locating it also keeps the interviewee very focused on the subject at hand instead of going off on a tangent. That was one thing that we discussed. And I think also that, the contextualizing at the beginning, what exactly are the contours of where you're speaking from. It could either be a government official, or you could be speaking as just a parent trying to raise a kid in a VUCA world, but what is the point of view? And of course, other things will inform that, but what is the point of view that should dominate the interview would keep it coherent, and it's really, I think, up to the interviewer to come back to those things when it's useful. How about you, Steph?
Well,
were there questions that were more effective for you?
Yeah, questions were very effective, but actually, as you just said, it's the follow-up questions that actually is good. It's the one that goes beyond the surface, the first answer. And on that respect, what it makes me think about is that, okay, I think definitely there is a nugget in every interview. Now, who is going to be aware of that nugget? I don't know, and I don't think, we can plan, whenever it's going to be happening, if it's after 5 seconds or in the last 5 seconds. And probably one thing also about this is that the moment we start looking for it is the moment we're sure we're never going to find it. Because, this discovery that I made for myself, thanks to your questions, Marc, I didn't know I was going to say something that was going to be so relevant for me, that was going really to shake me inside, I didn't know. And not knowing that is actually the moment where we create the space and the conditions for it to happen. That would be a recommendation I make,
It's very strong stuff. And also, it was visible for both of you when that happened. It was tangible. It was there's something. Okay. Super important.
All right.
I don't know if we mentioned the thing about reformulating before you started recording, but Marc, you mentioned that you should reformulate what the interviewee is saying. And what was your intention when you were talking about that?
No, yes, just at the end, I probably misunderstood what Cécile said, but it was to recap or summarize what globally what the guy have said, and the nugget. I could have said something about that, I could have said, but I did not I haven't taken notes.
No, it's more the technical question of, do I reformulate what the interviewee said? And we shared that it might be wiser to ask them to reformulate it themselves.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I agree.
Yes. Just to keep it, from interpretation, so that there's a resisting the urge to interpret on behalf of that person. And that's where, coaching questions are, it's a skill, it's an art, figuring out when to ask them to be more detailed. I do a thing called sparkle and roll. It's like sparkle is more, give me more detail about that, and roll is, okay, let's move on. It's a improv technique. But one of the useful things about that is when we were talking about the image of a metaphor of a box with Stephane. You can use that box to get all sorts of information, as long as it's his box. And you're not interpreting the box, you're just helping him, you're guiding him around the box to get more out of it.
Sure. We have to use the metaphors of the coaching. Sure.
Strongest lever in the carquois.
Okay, great. So, are we good?
We are?
We're great. Now I have to go and take my 11:30 meeting.
Okay. Thanks so much for this. So I will put this online for our guys, and we see how this works. Okay, but it was great. Thank you so much. Have a